World Trade Organization, WTO, evolution of World Trade Organization. First, though the WTO came into existence on January 1995, the history of its establishment dates back to 1945. Idea of International Trade Organization, ITO. After World War II, Western countries came out with an idea to create an International Trade Organization, ITO, to handle the trade side of the international economic cooperation. It was conceived as the third international institution along with two Bretton Woods institutions and as a specialized agency of the UNCHOIR, the major countries, including the USA, failed to get this treaty ratified in their respective legislatures. Thus, this treaty became a dead letter. General Agreements on Trade and Tariff, GATT. An agreement called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, was signed by 23 countries in Geneva, and came into force on Jan. 1, 1948 with the purpose of phasing of import quotas and reducing tariffs on merchandise trades. During the period 1948 to 1994, most of the world trade was governed by the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT. The Uruguay round of GATT, 1986 to 93, gave birth to World Trade Organization. The members of GATT signed on an agreement of Uruguay round in April 1994 in Morocco for establishing a new organization named WTO. It was officially constituted on January 1, 1995, which took the place of GATT as an effective formal organization. GATT was an informal organization which regulated world trade since 1948. Contrary to the temporary nature of GATT, WTO is a permanent organization which has been established on the basis of an international treaty approved by participating countries. It achieved the international status like IMF and IBRD, but it is not an agency of the United Nations Organization, UNO. The WTO Secretariat, based in Geneva, has around 600 staff and is headed by a Director General. Its annual budget is roughly 160 million Swiss francs. It does not have branch offices outside Geneva. Since decisions are taken by the members themselves, the Secretariat does not have the decision-making the role that other international bureaucracies are given. The Secretariat's main duties to supply technical support for the various councils and committees and the ministerial conferences, to provide technical assistance for developing countries, to analyze world trade and to explain WTO affairs to the public and media. The Secretariat also provides some forms of legal assistance in the dispute settlement process and advises governments wishing to become members of the WTO. Difference between GATT and WTO. GATT was a set of rules, with no institutional foundation, only a small associated secretariat, and WTO is a permanent institution with its own secretariat. GATT was applied on a provisional basis but WTO commitments are full and permanent. GATT applied only on merchandise goods but WTO applied on trade in services and trade-related aspects of intellectual property, foreign investment, etc. WTO dispute settlement system is faster, more automatic than GATT. Objectives to implement the new world trade system as visualized in the agreement. To promote world trade in a manner that benefits every country. To ensure that developing countries secure a better balance in the sharing of the advantages resulting from the expansion of international trade corresponding to their developmental needs. To demolish all hurdles to an open world trading system and usher in international economic renaissance because the world trade is an effective instrument to foster economic growth. To enhance competitiveness among all trading partners so as to benefit consumers and help in global integration. To increase the level of production and productivity with a view to ensuring level of employment in the world, to expand and utilize world resources to the best. To improve the level of living for the global population and speed up economic development of the member nations. Functions of WTO. It facilitates the implementation, administration, and operation of the WTO trade agreements, such as multilateral trade agreements and plurilateral trade agreements. It provides a forum for liberalization negotiations among its members concerning their multilateral trade relations. It administers the dispute settlement procedures so as to handle trade disputes. It monitors national trade policies, including trade policy review mechanism. It cooperates with various international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank with the aim of achieving greater coherence in global economic policy making. It provides technical assistance and training for members of the developing countries. Organizational structure of WTO Ministerial Conference, MC, General Council, GC. 3 Councils of WTO Director General, DG, Trade Policy Review Body, TPRB, Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, Appellate Body Ministerial Conference, MC. WTO is headed by the Ministerial Conference who enjoys absolute authority over the institution. It is the chief policy-making body of WTO and any major policy changes, such as a decision to alter competition policy or to rewrite the WTO agreement, require its approval. It takes appropriate measures to administer the new global trade rules. It is integrated by representatives of all WTO members and meet at least once in every 2 years. The Ministerial Conference, MC, sits at the top of the structural organization of the WTO and makes the final decisions on all matters. It is constituted by representatives of all the member countries, who are usually ministers of trade of the respective countries. General Council, GC. The General Council is the highest level decision-making body of the World Trade Organization. The General Council, GC, is composed of representatives from all the members. It is located in Geneva, and meets regularly to carry out the functions of the World Trade Organization. WTO consists of a General Council to oversee the WTO agreement and ministerial decisions on a regular basis. It is also formed by the representatives of all WTO members and acts on behalf of Ministerial Conference whenever the conference is not in sessions. The General Council also meets as the dispute settlement body and the trade policy review body. The Council sits in its headquarters Geneva, Switzerland usually once a month. 3 Councils of WTO. There are 3 WTO councils operating under the General Council. They include Council for Trade in Goods, Council for Trade in Services, and Council for Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS. These councils and their respective subsidiary bodies perform their respective functions. Each member has 1 vote. Decision-making is made by consensus. If consensus is not reached, then majority voting plays the crucial role. In addition to these councils, working parties can be established by the General Council in order to deal with specific issues defined by General Council. These councils, with their subsidiary bodies, carry out their designated specific responsibilities. Director General, DG, the administration of the World Trade Organization is conducted by the Secretariat, headed by the Director General, DG. The Director General, DG, is appointed by the Ministerial Conference, MC, for a tenure of 4 years. The Director General, DG, is assisted by the 4 Deputy Directors from different member countries. Trade Policy Review Body, TPRB. The General Council meets as the Trade Policy Review Body, TPRB, to undertake trade policy reviews of members under the Trade Policy Review Mechanism, TPRM, and to consider the Director General's regular reports on trade policy development. Thus, the TPRB is open to all the members of the WTO. Dispute Settlement Body, DSB. The General Council set up itself as the Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, to deliberate upon and resolve the disputes among the WTO members. Such disputes may arise with respect to any agreement contained in the final act of the Uruguay round that is subject to the understanding of rules and procedures governing the settlement of disputes, DSU. The DSB has the authority to establish dispute settlement panels, refer matters to arbitration, adopt panel, appellate body, and arbitration reports, maintain surveillance over the implementation of recommendations and rulings contained in such reports, and authorize suspension of concessions in the event of non-compliance with those recommendations and rulings. Appellate Body. The Appellate Body was established in 1995 under Article 17 of the Understanding on Rules and Procedures Governing the Settlement of Disputes, DSU. The DSB appoints persons to serve on the Appellate Body for a term of 4 years. It is a standing, permanent, body of 7 persons that hears appeals from reports issued by panels in disputes brought by members of the World Trade Organization. The Appellate Body can uphold, reverse, or modify the legal findings and conclusions of a panel. Once adopted by the Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, the reports of the Appellate Body must be accepted by the parties to the dispute. The seat of the Appellate Body is in Geneva, Switzerland. WTO, functions implementation of trade policy review rules, discussion of plans of member nations administrating and carrying out bilateral and multilateral trade agreements. Settlement of trade disputes, best possible use of the world's resources, implementation of trade policy review rules. The member nations of the World Organizations have come to an overall consensus due to the stability and assurance of trade agreements. The rules are examined to make sure that the multilateral trading system continues even in the face of continuously changing trade conditions. Additionally, it helps in creating a reliable and transparent foundation for conducting business. Discussion of plans of member nations. Trade negotiations within the global trading system are made possible through WTO. Without trade negotiations, the economy may stagnate, and issues related to dumping and tariffs might go unsolved. Consistent trade discussions are also a requirement for further trade liberalization. Administrating and carrying out bilateral and multilateral trade agreements. The parliaments of different member nations must ratify any bilateral and multilateral trade agreements. The non-discriminatory trading system cannot be implemented until such ratification occurs. Every member will be ensured to be treated fairly in the marketplace of other countries due to the signed contracts. Settlement of trade disputes. Trade disputes are addressed by the WTO's dispute settlement process. Independent tribunal specialists interpret the agreements and issue judgments mentioning the essential obligations of the involved member nations. It is advised to consult with other members to resolve disagreements. Best possible use of the world's resources. By utilizing the trade capabilities of developing countries, resources all around the world can be used to their maximum potential. For least developed economies, a special provision in the WTO agreement is necessary. Such initiatives include more significant trading opportunities, a longer duration to implement commitments, and to provide assistance to build infrastructure. Principles of World Trade Organization: Non-discrimination, most favored nation, MFN, exceptions to MFN rule, national treatment obligation, free trade and market access. Reducing tariff barriers, reducing non-tariff barriers, promoting fair competition, special concern for developing countries. Predictability, binding commitments, provide stability and predictability which in turn widens business opportunities. A change in binding has high opportunity costs. Encouraging development and economic reform, contributes to development, special assistance and trade concession for developing countries, flexibility in WTO agreements. Non-discrimination. Non-discrimination is a fundamental principle of the multilateral trading system and is recognized, in the preamble of the WTO agreement, as a key instrument to achieve the objectives of the World Trade Organization. In the preamble, its members express their desire to eliminate discriminatory treatment in international trades. Non-discrimination in the World Trade Organization is embodied by two principles as explained below: most favored nation, MFN. Pursuant to the WTO agreements, countries cannot discriminate among their trading partners. If a member grants to a country a special favor, e.g. a lower customs duty on any of its products, it must grant the same favor immediately and unconditionally to all WTO members. The MFN principle applies to trade in goods, trade in services, as well as trade-related aspects of intellectual property. Exceptions to MFN rule. Countries can set up a free trade agreement, FTA, that applies only to goods traded within the group, discriminating against goods from outside. They can give developing countries and LDCs a special access to their markets. A country can raise barriers against products that are considered to be traded unfairly from specific countries. In services, countries are allowed, in limited circumstances, to discriminate. National treatment obligation. It states that, imported and locally produced goods in a country should be treated equally once the foreign goods have entered the domestic market. The same should apply to domestic and foreign services, and to local and foreign trademarks, patents and copyrights. This principle of national treatment is also found in all three main WTO agreements. Free trade and market access. Lowering trade barriers for encouraging trade is one of the prime objectives of the WTO. The two main categories of barriers to market access for goods are tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. Thus, the WTO principles ask for the following in order to achieve its objective of promoting free trade and market access: reducing tariff barriers. One outcome of the Uruguay round was countries' commitments to cut tariffs and to bind their customs duty rates to levels that cannot be easily increased. In the Uruguay round, there was also a significant increase in the number of bound tariffs. A bound tariff is a tariff for which there is a legal commitment not to raise it above the bound level. The bound level of the tariff is the maximum level of customs duty to be levied on products imported into a member country. Reducing non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers include quantitative restrictions, such as quotas, and other barriers, for example, lack of transparency in trade regulation. Unfair and arbitrary application of trade regulations, customs formalities, technical barriers to trade and government procurement practices. WTO rules prohibit the introduction or maintenance of quantitative restrictions. The only restrictions on free trade that the WTO permits are duties, taxes, or other charges, and safeguards or emergency actions in limited circumstances. Promoting fair competition. The WTO system of multilateral trading system provides for transparent, fair, and undisturbed competition among the various countries. Rules such as most favored nation, MFN, treatment to all trading parties, equal treatment to foreign goods. Patents and copyrights as with nationals ensure fair competition among trading countries. Besides, the WTO agreement provides for discouraging unfair competitive practices, such as dumping and export subsidies. Predictability. Binding commitments provide stability and predictability which in turn widens business opportunities. A change in binding has high opportunity costs. Encouraging development and economic reform contributes to development, special assistance, and trade concession for developing countries, flexibility in WTO agreements. Special concern for developing countries. The WTO agreements include numerous provisions giving developing and LDCs special rights or extra leniency, known as special and differential treatment. It includes provisions that allow developed countries to treat developing countries more favorably than other members of the World Trade Organization. Other measures include extra time given to developing countries for fulfilling their commitments in respect of various WTO agreements. Provisions designed to increase developing countries' trading opportunities through greater market access. Provisions requiring the members of the World Trade Organization to keep and protect the interests of developing countries while adopting any domestic or international measures, example. In anti-dumping, safeguards, technical barriers to trade. WTO dispute settlement mechanism. The responsibility of settling disputes lies with the Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, which consists of all the members of the World Trade Organization. The detailed process of dispute settlement by the World Trade Organization is as follows. Process of dispute settlement. First stage, consultation up to 60 days, aimed at settling the trade disputes through conciliation. Second stage, up to 1 year in case the consultations fails to settle the dispute, the DSB forms a dispute panel. The report of the dispute panel can be rejected only through consensus among the DSB members. Appeal stage, either side can appeal the dispute panel's ruling. Each appeal is heard by 3 members of a permanent 7-membered appellate body. The appellate body can uphold, reverse, or modify the dispute panel's rulings. The dispute settlement body has to accept or reject the report of the appellate body. Rejection of its report is only possible by consensus. Roles of WTO. Implementation of rules for review of trade policy. The international rules of trade provide stability and assurance and lead to a general consensus among member countries. The policies are reviewed to ensure that even with the ever-changing trading scenarios, the multilateral trading system thrives. It also helps in the facilitation of a transparent and stable framework for conducting business. Forum for member countries discuss future strategies. The WTO, as a forum, allows for trade negotiations in the multilateral trading system. In the absence of trade negotiations, growth may stunt, and issues related to tariff and dumping may go unaddressed. Further liberalization of trade is also subject to consistent trade negotiations. Implementing and administering bilateral and multilateral trade agreements. The bilateral or multilateral trade agreements have to be necessarily ratified by the parliaments of respective member countries. Unless such ratification comes through, the non-discriminatory trading system cannot be put into practice. The executed agreements will ensure that every member is guaranteed to be treated fairly in other members' markets. Trade dispute settlement. The dispute settlement by the WTO is concerned with the resolution of trade disputes. Independent experts of the tribunal interpret the agreements and give out judgment mentioning the due commitments of the concerned member states. It is encouraged to settle the disputes by way of consultation among the members as well. Optimal utilization of the world's resources. Resources across the world can be further optimally utilized by harnessing the trade capacities of the developing economies. It requires special provisions in the WTO agreements for the least developed economies. Such measures may include providing greater trading opportunities, longer duration to implement commitments, and also support to build the SU infrastructure. Importance of WTO to Nepal helps to raise living standards, create jobs, and improves people's lives, helps to develop trade capacity, provide assurance of market stability. Broaden the opportunity of consumers' choice. This leads to a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world. Lowers the trade barriers through negotiations among member governments, helps to improve the welfare of the peoples of the WTO's members. Administering trade agreements. Acting as a forum for trade negotiations, settling trade disputes, reviewing national trade policies, building the trade capacity of developing economies. Cooperating with other international organizations. WTO, benefit to Nepal. Market access. Market access opportunities provided by the WTO system can lead to further investment, addressing the constraint of limited domestic market for economic scale of productive operation, which will also help to raise investment, economic production of goods and services, and industrialization process. The membership has also secured extended market opportunities. Nepal's excessive reliance on 3 export markets, India, Germany and the United States, US, had made the country's export trade extremely vulnerable. It was therefore expected that WTO membership would provide Nepal the opportunity to explore other destinations for exports. Special and differential treatments. The WTO offers special and differential treatments for LDCs like Nepal. These include longer transition periods for the implementation of the agreements, technical support, due restraint on disputes involving LDCs, and special treatment while liberalizing the services sector. Transit right. One of the reasons why Nepal had sought membership of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, was the transit problem it had encountered during the Indo-Nepal transit stalemate in 1989. It was expected that under the GATT/WTO, Nepal would be granted access to the sea as a right as per Article V of the GATT 10. In theory, as a WTO member, Nepal should benefit from access to international markets without discrimination. Policy stability. The WTO regime provides opportunity for policy stability internally, which is of utmost urgency in the context of the existing political instability, in order to provide an environment of predictability for investment and industrialization. National policy decisions are locked to the framework of WTO provisions, which enhance the credibility of the country in terms of economic governance. Attract foreign direct investment. Policy stability due to WTO membership provides credibility to the nation in terms of economic activities with predictable environment. Such environment is essential to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, and technology to expedite industrialization process in Nepal. Additionally, the mandatory provision of WTO in protecting intellectual property rights creates a better situation for attracting investment. Access to dispute settlement body. WTO's best achievement is dispute settlement body. Point 12. A WTO membership would accord Nepal the right to challenge in any measures taken by trading partners which are against Nepal's economic and trade interest. Gearing up domestic institutional capability. Joining WTO reflects national commitment in gearing up domestic institutional capability in delivering services related to trade and economic transactions. Similarly, the challenge to business community in enhancing their competitive capability certainly builds pressure to look at their own existing lapses and inefficiency, paving the way for the effective actions to correct them. Therefore, WTO membership can be an effective excuse in domestic constituency and private corporate culture to adopt and enforce reform measures with drastic changes departing from traditional and status quo oriented approach. Benefit from liberalization. Nepal has and could benefit from liberalization through better allocation of natural resources towards industries with the strongest advantages, enhanced learning and newer technology from interacting with the rest of the world, greater flexibility via trade, for dealing with shocks and discouragement for rent-seeking activities. The obligatory requirement of transparency and self-discipline in economic policy making bestowed by WTO membership would provide better environment for entrepreneurship. Mobilization of trade-related technical assistance. WTO provides and has initiated the programs of Aid for Trade and Enhanced Integrated Framework, EIF, to enhance the supply-side capacity of the developing countries. Nepal has participated in this process, and it is hoped that this will further help to build the trade capacity in the days to come. Issues with WTO. The organization's orientation is perceived to be pro-Western. As a result, the WTO's existence is being questioned. Non-compliance with existing regulations and even WTO dispute resolution authority judgments, as well as a deadlock on crucial topics. In recent years, the United States has taken several unilateral actions, refusing to abide by the organization's collective decisions or even the dispute resolution authority's rulings. This has made things tough for other countries that have put their faith in the process and expressed legitimate trade concerns. The gridlock that has been developed on so many topics has impeded the organization's operation as well as the global economic recovery. Trade agreements such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, have been reached outside of the WTO's authority. Challenges to Nepal from WTO membership. Employment. At present, 14% of the Nepalese workforce is believed to be unemployed and 47% underemployed. To achieve a higher level of production in terms of both quality and quantity, sophisticated machineries and better technology have to raise production efficiency. It is machinery rather than labor that allows to achieve the target of meeting the market demand on schedule. Therefore, it is very likely that the workforce is replaced instantly by machineries like in developed economies. Negotiation for more benefits. The task of negotiation for accession with the objective of gaining more and losing less is challenging for Nepal, primarily due to lack of knowledgeable and skillful human resources with the government as well as private sector. Strengthening institutions. Given the financial constraint of the government and the lack of proper policy intervention to cope with the responsibility and obligations posed by the WTO membership, the task of strengthening institutions seems difficult to achieve. Specialization in some products and services. This is a challenging task of Nepal when there is lack of proper physical and institutional infrastructure, capital, and resources for industrialization. Making industries cost-effective. The old industries of Nepal need urgent restructuring and modernization in order to make them capable of producing quality goods at a competitive price. It is not possible to make industries cost-effective without investment. Income distribution and poverty. Since rules, laws, practices, and norms of economic and social nature are shaped as per the requirements of the global village, the economy and society are put under the powerful influence of outside forces, such as INGOs and MNCs. Local monopolies are also replaced by international monopolists whose interest is not to cooperate with local government in resolving any social crisis but to reap economic benefits. The process aggravates the problems of income and wealth inequality, the rural-urban gap, poverty, unemployment, and social and economic dualism. The country is thus forced to remain in a low equilibrium poverty trap. Monopoly of MNCs in patent. Due to the intervention of MNCs in local initiatives, due to huge research capacities and technological advancement, MNCs are able to patent other countries' resources, especially LDCs like Nepal. Achievements of WTO. The WTO has enabled a huge increase in cross-border economic activity by creating binding standards for global trade in products and services. The WTO has not only increased trade value and volume but also contributed to the removal of trade and non-trade barriers. Since 1995, the value of global commerce has nearly tripled, while the volume of global trade has increased by 2.7 times. The long-term increase in a country's national income has stemmed from domestic changes and vows to open the market. An increase in global value chains is due to WTO-created market conditions and better communication. Trade inside these value chains accounts for over 70% of total product trade. The World Trade Organization, WTO, gives special attention to the world's poorest countries. All WTO accords acknowledge the need for maximum flexibility and the need for better-off members to take further steps to eliminate import barriers on exports from LDCs.